Welcome back to the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. I'm your host, Sal Guerrero. With me, as always, is former defensive lineman Kyle Searle, former quarterback Kurt Hess, and former director of football operations Dan Kopp. Welcome to what is a great day to be a Penguin after the thumping we had on Southern Illinois this past weekend. But first, of course, please follow us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. Monitored by Kurt, and of course we are YouTube live. The chat is active, monitored by Kyle Searle. So, recapping what was a crazy game as the number 5 Southern Illinois Salukis came to Youngstown State as what we thought the Penguins' playoff hopes were dwindling away. The Penguins definitely showed up, and they showed up in a strong way. Just a quick recap for those. We started off on the first quarter with a 40-yard run by Tyshawn King to put the Penguins up 7-0. Second quarter, we drove all the way 96-yard drive in 13 plays for Rushton to run it in just 2 yards away, 14-0 Penguins. After a field goal by the Salukis, we go into half 14-3. Third quarter, another touchdown. A Penguin field goal, make it 17-3. And then in the fourth quarter, the Penguins peeled away with another touchdown and then a field goal to seal it up 31-3. It was more so the Youngstown State defense that just completely throttled and held Southern Illinois to 100 yards exactly, and the offense just exploded. So it was quite a response after the disappointing Northern Iowa game. The Salukis coming to town, and number 5 Salukis go down to what was the unranked Penguins, now the ranked Penguins. We're definitely going to unfold this game and dive onto the details. I'm going to flip it over to Searle to hit on the defense and hit, before that, let me turn it over because you all three guys were there, Kurt, Searle, and Dan. What was the atmosphere like before the game, during the game? What was the festivities like? Off the field wise?
Off the field, it was pretty packed. The tailgate lot seemed full, and a lot. It was beautiful, a little chilly, but it was a beautiful night. Still, I think the university had their football alumni tailgate set up in the back parking lot there. So Kurt and I got to meet up with some older guys, some older generation guys, which was cool, and some of our teammates. So it was a good overall atmosphere for the game. Don't quite think the attendance reached the Robert Morris level, but it was still a decent turnout.
Yeah, definitely agree with you there, Kyle. Honestly, the coolest part for me rolling up with you, Kyle, and we had a little bit of a group that we were either meeting up with or walking around with. Shout out Matty Romes and his family. I love the campus now, man. I think we talked about it a little bit earlier in the group text. Like, I think Strollo, the athletic department, have really done a good job of spreading it out a little bit. I mean, we played 10 years ago, but still in the last 10 years, we've got an indoor tennis facility. Your parking lots are a lot cleaner. The bookstore looks great. You have more fields around you, softball field. And so it feels a lot more like an athletic complex, and everything's been brought together in the last 10 years. Of course, we still had the Bill Dugan house and everybody who lived at that house right next to Taco Bell. But I think the guys are still living in that house. And so, I mean, that seems to
What
be
a prime location. What a prime location.
Dude.
Your next door neighbor is Taco Bell, and your caddy corner across the street from the stadium. Absolutely.
You never have to drive anywhere. You never have to drive.
Yeah.
12 out of 10 location right there.
But no, it was awesome. Being in the Leiden box was great. Being in the stadium was great as always. It looks legit when you're up there. The Constantini Multimedia Center is legit. I know we're a small Division I school, but we make it look awesome. It is still a great experience from a complete fan perspective. No bias. It's a cool place to go see a game.
Hats off to Strollo?
Oh yeah, we talked to Strollo a little bit. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, we did run into Strollo.
And I love him because he's like, "Yay, big game, let's go! We need this one." And he's got that competitor in him still, man.
Now we just got to get them to chip in for some paint and paint the Brown Stadium black or red or something. You know,
There you go. There you go. Yeah, no,
only thing we're missing.
you guys are right. I mean, I think it's cool to hear from you guys as former players and who were recruited here and came to the campus when you guys did, which probably would have been what, the winter of '09 for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Winter of '09, and look at it now. I think obviously kudos to Ron and what he's done and fundraising efforts, and obviously what President / Coach Trussell did. I think driving up Fifth Avenue and Wick Avenue now. My brother, who was in from Florida, down there in South Tampa area last year, and drove up through there, and he's like, "Wow, we grew up here, so you were used to campus, so to speak, and it does feel like that. It looks beautiful. The stadium, we all know how our stadium compares to other places now with the Constantini Center and the Watts and the tennis facility, all those facilities, soccer field, track, all that. It looks awesome on a game day or a game night. Weather was a little bit Youngstown weather, so to speak, but yeah, it's always good atmosphere. So that's what I thought too.
Cyril, let's dive into the game, brother. The defense, who, I mean, in my opinion, was the heart of the game. A lot of question marks, even on this show, on the secondary. Break down the defense. What are your thoughts on the D and overall of the game?
So aside from being glued to the glass window in the loge, not only because the loge was packed with people and you had no breathing room, but was just really excited and kind of nervous for the beginning of this game to see how it was going to unfold. But like you said, the defense, I don't know if they listened to the show and took what I had to say to heart for keys to the game, because they absolutely dominated. And I think Valparaiso played better than Southern Hill when they came in here. And this defense held Southern Illinois to 100 total yards of offense, which is insane. They had 56 yards lost, and at least 7 individual players had a half a sack or more on this defense. So just lights out play. Held them to 94 yards passing, no big plays, and you know what? They bowed up. Southern Hill got a pick in the red zone. I think they got it to like the 4 or the 5 or something, and the defense held them to 3. And that was the key to the game is minimizing red zone points to 3 or less, and held them to 2 for 13 on third downs. And like I said, 7 sacks, total of 47 yards lost on those sacks. Just fun game to watch. And one thing I said to Kurt, and Kurt said to me actually, was our corners and our secondary necessarily weren't in the best position to make a play, but they didn't quit on the play, which I feel like in years past, it's a hard position to play out there on an island, and it's very easy to just kind of concede the play and chalk it up as a loss. But our guys, even though they were out of position, fought hard to make a play or make a play after the catch or something along those lines. And one thing that I saw from this defensive line, specifically this game, was they collapsed the pocket. They were working together as a unit to keep the quarterback in the pocket specifically. He got out a couple times, but they were running awesome, clean games. If no one knows what a game is, it's a play for the defensive lineman to have an advantage against the offensive line without bringing extra people on a blitz. So great games, great pocket awareness, and just phenomenal play across the board. So nothing but good things to say about this defense.
How about, speaking of the secondary out of position, how about that interception we had? I don't know if that was, I'm going to have to see a replay. I don't know if that was great technique or not, and if he wasn't really lined up yet, but what an athlete to intercept that ball, almost not even looking the other way.
What I'll say is the defensive line forced a lot of bad throws from that quarterback because they were collapsing the pocket, and they didn't give him any escape lanes in the pocket. So he was just throwing it up for his life. And he's a shorter guy, so it was probably hard for him to see downfield over his linemen. So he was just throwing on a prayer.
Yeah, and no doubt, our front seven, our linebackers, our D line, unless shown otherwise, that is the best piece of our team. That's our strong point. But Curdy, over to you. Offense, overall thoughts.
Just to chime in a little bit about what Cyril was talking about, and I think Coach Kopp and Sal, you guys can attest to this. Just the one play that we saw where the D-line actually was not able to get to the quarterback. It was like we kept waiting for this quarterback to make a play and kept waiting, and he had time in the pocket, was scrambling around, and this corner is tagged up on this guy who runs across the field like it's a shallow cross and then escapes the pocket. He comes back towards the sideline. It's a 5, 6, 7-second play, and this corner is still tagged to his man. And then when his guy finally catches the ball and the DB punches it, our DB punches it out, I can't remember who it was. I think that tells a lot about the coaching, because this guy is sticking to his man and playing to the whistle, and he's doing everything he can to bust his butt the whole time. Whereas in years past, I mean, you guys have seen it on TV. You see it every week. A guy gives up on a play just for a half a second, and it's a completion and a big play. So I thought that talked a lot about the secondary coaching, as well as your overall culture from Coach Phillips. So I felt like that was just very indicative of the types of players that we do have in the secondary. And we had a lot of question marks, like you said, Sal, last week with the secondary, and they stepped up big time because offensively – we got the ball, and we took advantage of the defense giving us the ball. It's great complementary football. The defense did their job. They got us the ball, as many possessions as we had. We talked last week about how combined Dre Rushton and Tyshawn King had 18 carries. Dre had 17 this week. Tyshawn had 22. They're toting the rock. We got a little bit back to our identity of our offensive line, leaning on guys, pushing guys around, giving these guys holes. Tyshawn King, shout out again, newcomer of the week. I think that's his third honor so far for the Missouri Valley this year. So that's huge. He went off for 117. Dre, great complimentary back with 52. Like I say complimentary because Tyshawn seems to be getting a little bit more carries, but honestly, it's a 1-2 punch. It's a 1A, 1B right there. Mitch had the one interception. I thought the ball could have been a little bit higher and more outside. Sometimes, your depth perception while you're out there is a little bit thrown off if you're leaning back, or you got a little bit of, your footwork underneath you is a little thrown off. So you're going to throw interceptions. It's how you respond after that. So short memory, very efficient with the ball. I know you'll talk about maybe his efficiency a little bit later, but 14 of 18, 156 yards, only took 1 sack. He's throwing the ball away, or he's throwing it in spots where only guys can get it. It's a great identity game for us, and it's really important to come back from Northern Iowa and for the defense and the special teams, those 2/3 of the football game, to play well. It's easy as an offense to get back to your identity. You're not pressing. You're not forcing the issue. You're not thinking that you have to make a big play every single time. And we just kept waiting over and over for Southern Hill to open up and play, and the defense just was not allowing it. So as a quarterback, as an offense, you're like, yo, let's go out there. Let's do what we do. We got a 14-3 lead. We're heading in here. Everything we score right now before half is a bonus. Don't turn the ball over. It's okay to punt. Great game. I mean, the offense played great. Don't get me wrong, but we were supporting the D. The D was supporting us, and that's a team win right there.
Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of thought of some words after, leaving and watching the replay, which we catch a replay here on a local channel on Sundays. Offensively, we talked about it on the show last week. I thought the staff, like Kurt, kudos, you brought that up as well as Kyle did, the coaching job. We were patient on offense. We ran the ball 47 times. I mean, that's committing to running the ball. We had balance. Like you said, Mitch was 14 of 18, so he was efficient, but we were patient. 47 rushes for 190 yards. Tyshawn had 22 carries himself. If we can do that, YSU's going to be, they're going to win their games. We had one punt. If you think about that, guys, we punted the ball one time. One punt. If you're in a game and you're going to punt it once, probably got a good chance. We talked last week about some fourth down plays. We were 2 for 2 on fourth down. Kyle nailed it. On defense, they punted 6 times. We had 7 sacks and an interception. We talked about, I thought one of the keys last week, as we all did, was creating turnovers. We had 7 sacks and a pick. I mean, those sacks are almost like turnovers. Total yards, Kyle said, 100 yards. Our average field position was at the 50. You're going to win some games if your average field position's at the 50 and you punt 1 time. Again, I think all year long, credit to Coach Phillips and his staff again on their halftime adjustments. We've had some halves where we've either been down or haven't been playing as well, and we come out and play a lot better. Coach Phillips here locally always talks about depth. I was looking through the stats, the amount of guys that played on Saturday. That kind of shows you that we've got depth. A lot of players rotating in. Kyle, on the D-line, we're putting in, if you're playing 6, 7 guys on the D-line, we got depth. The time of possession, guys, we held the ball for 37 minutes and 39 seconds. We're going to win games if you can do that. So, the 30-20 rule, we kind of held to that, which I thought is a good thing. One quick thing Kurt touched on, Mitch's play. I don't know if you guys remember, the game was sealed. We went for it on a 4th and 5, and Mitch threw a ball right to Max Tomczak, right in between the safety and corner. It was a hell of a throw. I mean, Kurt, you've made those, and I just thought it was an overall win, man. We just dominated what was the number 5 team in the country. So, I mean, what more can we say? And it's everything we've been looking for from those guys. So credit to Coach Phillips and his staff. And talk about bouncing back, man. Those guys were hugging at the end of the game. You could tell how much it meant for them to put that Northern Iowa game behind them. And, man, I just felt good for everyone involved with Coach Phillips and the program.
No doubt, and not to take anything away from us, but in my personal opinion, I've seen a couple Saluki games, but they have a really good quarterback at Nick Baker, who may be one of the best in the conference, and they have a really good defensive line, and I think that's it. I think their defensive line was phenomenal. When he had 1 yard, it was very tough to get, or we didn't get it. And then they just had a quarterback who was really good, and our front 7 was just better than their offensive line. My helmet stickers to Coach Brown, our defensive coordinator, and definitely to the defense as a whole. The defense, again, not to take away from the offense. Offense definitely showed up, but you're holding one of the best quarterbacks in the conference to 3 points and really 100 yards, or it was really should have been less than 100 yards. Phenomenal job of the defense. I don't know if anyone has anything more to share on the game, but I thought their D-line was really good, and I think there's one thing, and we'll talk about more when we get into the next week's game. The offensive line, we got to do something to be able to get 1 yard when we need 1 yard. You want to put it behind us?
Yeah, let's go.
Great win.
Move on.
So, again, Youngstown State Penguins over the number 5 Southern Illinois Salukis, 31-3. Huge momentum shifter, much needed, put us really back in the playoff conversation, which we'll talk about a little later. Curdy, you want to talk about Penguins and NFL?
Yeah, another great week. Jaleel scored another touchdown for the Broncos. I know Broncos were going up against the New York Jets, obviously one of the most stout defenses in the NFL, so that was huge going against Robert Saleh and being able to score a touchdown. He's clearly the most efficient back for Denver right now. I think he had 9 carries for like 67 yards, broke off a long one. 3 catches, 22 yards, something like that, with a touchdown on the screen pass. He's the most efficient. He's the most productive. So only thing maybe holding him back right now could be pass protection. So, Samaje Perine getting a lot of that, the clear veteran right there in the Broncos backfield. Samaje tossed one of those reverse plays. I don't know if you all saw it for the Broncos, but he fumbled it to the receiver who was coming around the other way. And you just got to think as a Penguin fan, like, man, if Jaleel was in there, like, he'd be making that toss. It would have been fine. Give this guy some more. So the only thing I think that's holding him back maybe is some pass pro stuff. If he's not picking up blitzes, if he's not chipping, he's a smaller back. It's kind of hard. Samaje brings a little bit more wood to those blitz pickups. So maybe that's what's holding him back. But very productive day. Drew Ogletree with the Colts, 2 catches, 16 yards. Not quite fantasy viable yet, but he's getting a lot of run in that Colts system right now. And as well as I think Kevin Rader was back with the Titans this week. I think he was back activated again. Talked to Rader a little bit via Instagram this week. He says he's absolutely down to come. He's down to come on the show. I think he's going to be planning to go to the spring game this spring, so a chance for us to, if we all get back to the spring game or something, catch up with him a little bit. He's back with the Titans, so best of luck to Kev. Derek's still with the Texans, and just trying to get Rader back on the field, man. I know it's kind of stacked and loaded over there in Tennessee, but with what Vrabel does, man, they may need 3 tight ends. They may need that 2 tight end and a fullback personnel, and Rader's been in the system for a year or two, so definitely a good guy to have around and stay healthy.
How cool is it that we're talking about YSU guys in the NFL right now? And we're not talking, I mean, we got a guy like Jaleel McLaughlin that you're watching whatever halftime CBS, NBC, Sunday Night in America or whatever ESPN highlights, and there's our guy, Jaleel McLaughlin, catching a pass. And, this isn't preseason anymore. This isn't, this is a guy who's in the league and doing it, man. I just think it's so cool for our program, our university. So
the NFL Instagram account is posting pictures of him and tagging him in it, which is pretty legit. So you're talking about this multi-billion-dollar industry that has our boy who was in our backfield last week, and they're tagging him in it. And people who follow social media, and we're okay with social media, all of us, comparatively to what the younger generation is coming up now. But they got to respect that big time.
Yeah. Is McAllister still with the Rams? Or is he?
I don't know if he got practice squad or not.
Okay.
I think I've seen some pics. He's still around the organization. If he's not officially on that practice squad, I don't know how it is because he's a rookie coming out. So I think you can still be connected to that organization. Might be something we have to look into a little bit more.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Kurt. That's just really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's, if I can, let's transition. Going into last week's games and last week's in general, it was a very fun week of college football. I know y'all saw the 2023 Super Bowl MVP Baker Mayfield was on College Game Day making picks as a special guest. Awesome to see him. Recapping last week around the Valley, just going through scores real quick. Kurt is our champion again for the 3rd time. He had 5 picks correct. Congratulations, Curdy. That is 3. Cyril has 1. Dan has 1, and I'm yet to get on the scoreboard. So Curdy's got a good couple point lead on us. Going across the Valley, Western Illinois was at North Dakota. North Dakota won 49-10. They won and covered. North Dakota State at Missouri State. North Dakota State won 38-10, won and covered. Murray State at South Dakota. South Dakota wins 38-7, win and cover. Penguins as the underdog just completely again thrumped the Salukis 31-3. That is a money line that we all picked. South Dakota State Jackrabbits are at Illinois State. They won but did not cover, but they won 40-21. Northern Iowa, I guess a little hungover from their crazy upset of beating us. Northern Iowa was at Indiana State in a close one, but came out on top 27-20. Interesting enough. Recapping those games or just any college football game in general from last week outside of our Saluki game that we already recapped that anyone just wants to share, touch on, FCS, FBS, anything. I'm just going to say real quick, did y'all saw how the Georgia Tech Miami game ended?
Yeah. The dude should be fired, right? I mean, Cristobal should be fired or no?
So apparently he did this at Oregon against Stanford. He already did this.
Guys, that's his thing. That's his thing.
Yeah, they same deal. He fumbled, Stanford got it. Stanford kicked the field goal, and Stanford beat him in overtime, like his first year at Oregon. So anyway, we'll move that past us. Reviewing the top 25. So we have a coaches poll and a AP poll. Coaches poll, just to put it in perspective, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits still number 1. North Dakota State 7. Southern Ill drops to 13. North Dakota 15. South Dakota 17. Youngstown State 20, Northern Iowa and Illinois State receiving votes. On the AP side, I just want to point one thing out that's drastically different is South Dakota is number 10 on the AP ballot, just to share that piece of news with you. Guys, I hate to say it and look at it, but it's never too soon to talk playoffs because at the end of the day, that is kind of what the goal is. So looking at the rest of the schedule, we have South Dakota, Illinois State, Missouri State, Indiana State, South Dakota State, and Murray State. Playoff-wise, in the Missouri Valley Conference-wise, well, I just want to share this piece of news that I don't know when it came out, but the playoff committee is now allowed to use the AP top 25 and the coaches poll top 25 in making their decision for who should be a member. It was an interesting thing. I listened to some podcasts. A lot of media hate that idea. They're against it. I think it's good for Missouri Valley since half our conference is ranked. So I reached out to our friend, conference commissioner of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, Patty. She wanted to congratulate us on our win. And she says, as for the FCS selection criteria, I believe more data points the committee can consider in the selection process, the better it concludes. That includes the polls and other rankings, and she goes on to list a couple. So Patty's definitely in favor of it. Just want to get y'all's thoughts on that criteria. If we love it, hate it. Overall, what do you think about the Penguins? Are we bubble? Are we in? Are we out? How are we looking so far?
Right now, listen, we got another half of Missouri Valley football to go. We got our bye week behind us, which I said sucks early on. So we have to remain healthy, get through the second half. But if these guys play with the tenacity that they played with against Southern Hill, the sky is the limit for them. Put them in.
Yeah, I think you guys saw it in the UNI and Indiana State score. Any given weekend in this conference, man, you just got to take it one step at a time, and that's super hard to think about. And for us, as people who talk football and talk the whole season, we could talk about playoffs. That's fine. I think it's going to come down to the last one or two games here in the season, which it seems like it does every year for us. Even last year, the Cardiac kids last year were coming back every couple games, winning these close ones, even when we're down late. So, just trying to avoid that kind of, I don't know, those narrow victories. Just play your ball, identity on offense and on defense, and, close out games when you can, because last year hopefully we learned from the fact that we did that to other teams last year, and we kept hanging on, and if we get a lead, man, you got to keep it because nobody's safe. So we could look at South Dakota State and say that needs to be our only loss to get in. If for the rest of the year we went out and that's our only loss, cool, that's great, but don't think like that if you're in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're trending in that right direction. I hear that a lot, but I like that the way we're running the football. You guys, we all talk about it. You got two guys on this show that were in the heat of the battle of those. Sal, you were coaching in these games. We've all seen it. Running the ball, I thought that's why I thought one of the highlights of the game for me was the patience of the offensive staff to run the ball. You're not going to pick up 7 yards on every carry. But if you just keep running the football when the weather changes and it gets people, it's a long season. Kyle alluded to that. We're going to get beat up. Everyone gets beat up. But if we're running the ball, I really like our chances. If we're running, we got a guy, what'd you say, Kurt, 3 times? He's the newcomer of the week in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Yeah, third
This
one.
is a guy who, I remember when we talked preseason, this guy's built for this offense to run the ball against these kind of teams. So, man, we all hope we're a playoff team, and we got to just go like their theme is this year, right? Let there be no doubt. So,
Yeah, I saw bracketology or predictions of the playoffs. They're starting to come out, and articles are starting to be published. I saw 2 in particular. One had us in, the other one has had the first 4 out, but both of them had 6 Missouri Valley football conferences in, including all 4 Dakotas teams. So it was all 4 Dakotas, us and the Salukis, and the other one had us and I believe Northern Iowa. But personally, again, as we spoke about, we have 3 strikes, right? So we're allowed to lose 2 games, not including Ohio State. We already lost 1, so we're allowed to lose 1 more, whether that's South Dakota State or someone else. I still think we're going to call me crazy again. I still think we can win this entire conference. I mean, if you look at South Dakota State's schedule, they got a strong. I think they play like the 4 best teams other than themselves in a row. So I see the Jackrabbits dropping a game, and then that puts us in a position to knock them off to potentially win the conference.
And we do have the Jackrabbits the week after they play North Dakota State. So maybe that's going to benefit us. Maybe it won't. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah. Hold on, let me look it up real quick. Yeah, so they're just to share their schedule. They're Northern Iowa, at Southern Illinois, at South Dakota, North Dakota State, and then at Youngstown State. That's a hell of a schedule. But anyway, we'll see how they fare. But I think it's all up in the air. And when it comes to playoffs, I don't know who to cheer for. Do I want Southern Illinois to win since we beat them? At the same time, I don't want them to take up an at-large bid that we're fighting for. So
I don't know, Sal. I was kind of looking at Kurt this past week, and you said you think Southern Hill stinks last week, and I kind of looked at Kurt and I was like, man, I hate to admit it, but I think Sal might be right. They didn't look like they could get anything going. It didn't look like they could fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
The recap, I said it would be 31-17 Penguins, and I said by giving them 17 points, I was respecting Salukis that they'd get 17. Thank you for that, remembering that, by the way.
Or is that how good we are? Or is that
there you go. I was just about to say that. Is it,
Yeah,
hey, let's think of this.
We're
We're a 4th down conversion potentially away from being, what, 4-1, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
we're a pretty darn good football team, too. And I just think we handled Southern Illinois. I think we were more prepared to play. I thought our guys just had an edge about them. And kudos to our coaching staff, man. Those guys had them ready to go. So
No doubt. We left you and I behind us for sure.
Yep.
We ready to transition?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Youngstown State is at South Dakota, 2 p.m. ESPN Plus on if you're not local. That is on October 14th, Saturday afternoon. Just throwing some quick, fast facts at everyone for South Dakota and what they've done so far. First, they opened at SEC's Missouri at a 35-10 loss. Then St. Thomas of Minnesota came to them. They won 24-0. Lamar came to them 35-6. They beat Lamar. North Dakota State in Fargo was the big upset. They won 24-19, and don't let the score fool you on that, as they dominated North Dakota State that week. And then just last week, they went on and beat Murray State 38-7. So South Dakota so far, their only loss being at Missouri, which was actually somewhat of a game until the 4th quarter when Missouri peeled away. So far, this is a pretty good game or a pretty good team. Overall, just Youngstown State versus South Dakota in general. Youngstown State holds the edge, 8-2 all time. We started to play this team in 2012 when they joined the conference. However, we are only 2-2 when playing at South Dakota, but we have not lost to them since 2019. We have a 2-game winning streak, and our last time we actually won at South Dakota was in 2015. We've lost the last couple times at South Dakota. Bob Nielsen is their head coach. He's been there since 2016. He has never lost at home to Youngstown State. He is previously coming from within the conference at Western Illinois. He was the Leathernecks coach for 3 years and actually led them to the playoffs his last year. And then he took off running to South Dakota. He's actually 32-42 overall as South Dakota's head coach so far. He has a new offensive coordinator Josh Davis, who was the receiver coach for his in-state rival, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits last year, and his long time, his defensive coordinator who's been with them for 4 seasons, Travis Johansson, is running his defense. Quick stats just to throw some stat numbers on you, and I want to say this because even though South Dakota thromped North Dakota State, I have some stats to read off that really on paper, Youngstown State is much better than this team. South Dakota offensively ranks 76. The Penguins are 19. And on total offense, the Penguins are 14 in the country with 36-point average. South Dakota's defense ranking nationally is actually number 3 with points against. They only 13-point average against them, number 3 in the country. But YSU is number 35 at 24. Total defense, though, South Dakota's 18, and the Penguins are 16 in total defense. So defensive-wise, we are right there with them, actually a little better in terms of stats. Turnover margin, though, South Dakota is 9. YSU's rushing defense, this is a fun fact, we're number 2 in the country on that. Searle's favorite play, money down, for those of you who don't know that, is third down conversions. South Dakota is not even on paper, but Youngstown State's offense is number 12 on third downs, and their defense is number 15 on third downs. That's when it comes to getting off the field. Crazy fast fact. And then, as Kurt was starting to touch on, Mitch Davidson, YSU quarterback, his completion average and his efficiency, he's the number 13 quarterback in the country. And time of possession, Youngstown State is number 4 in the country, which Jan sort of touched on our game last week. So a lot to be excited about. On paper, we are much better than this team. But again, on paper, the only thing that matters is the score. Dan, I'm going to flip it over to you on your thoughts or scouting report on South Dakota.
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with their head coach. You brought him up, Bob Nielsen. I believe that's how you pronounce it. It's interesting. I always wondered why he left Western Illinois after taking them to the playoffs. But I think he probably smart.
Though?
No, I mean, that's what I was going to say. He probably knew long term with the kind of recruits you can get out of the Dakotas. He got out
You
of
ever been to South Dakota? It's beautiful.
Yeah, he got out of Macomb and that stadium that, I don't know, we got nicer high school stadiums here than they got at Western Hill. But he's done a great job there. I guess if I had a scouting report, might start, is this their best team? Is this the best team that South Dakota's had? I don't know. I mean, maybe if you look at where they're ranked and all that. I think they're like all those Dakota schools. Kyle was just out there. We're trying to keep them from moving out there. But, they've got them Dakota boys, man. They're going to be disciplined. They're not going to miss tackles. I think they're kind of a team. I always feel like they almost play, this is South Dakota, to see who makes the mistake first. They've always kind of been, they don't do a whole lot of flashy stuff, but they'll be physical and all that good stuff. That win in Fargo, I mean, I think that says it all for me. I mean, if you can go into Fargo and win, you're obviously, disciplined. You're probably running the ball well. You're playing really good defense. That's what we're going to get. I don't know. I haven't seen enough of them to say they're big play capabilities. I hope they're not. And I think they're going to try and take the air out of the ball. I mean, we control the ball. Our time of possession is exactly what you want. So they know that. If we're talking about it, I can assure you they know it. So they're probably going to try and play keep away with us. They're going to probably try and do what we do. They're going to try and possess the ball. So I'm looking forward to us playing on turf again, like in a dome. We did it at the Uni Dome, so we're kind of adjusted to that atmosphere, so to speak. But I want to see us just play really fast. I'm hoping we're just a faster football team than them, as well as being physical. So, but this guy's a good coach. That offensive coordinator, Sal, I think he played at South Dakota State as well as was on that staff there. So this guy knows, the offensive coordinators, he knows, he's seen us and probably played against us and all those things. So, that place, to me, it's a hard place to play. I want to talk about it a little later when we get into a different segment, but I think that's who they are. They're going to be that team that does all the little things right. So we've got to do the same thing to match up against that.
Cyril?
Yeah, Sal, I mean, just you reading those quick stats off, on paper, I think that we have a mirror image of our Penguins team that we're here playing. So I think they're going to be a hard-nosed team that doesn't quit. They play hard. I'm not going to discount that loss at Fargo. That's not an easy place to win at all. I think this team is much better than we thought in the preseason. I think this team has, the roster to go into the playoffs and be successful. I mean, coming out of this conference, their first conference game is North Dakota State, and you manhandle them. So very impressive team that they have. They're averaging 26 points per game, pretty balanced with 164 rushing yards per game to 162 passing yards. Both their running backs, they have two running backs that are both averaging over 5 yards a carry. Obviously, we know that you're not going to get 5 yards every time you carry the ball, so there's big play potential with those backs. So just got to come to tackle and not miss any tackles. The quarterback, I think, is the heart of this offense. He's a big kid, big South Dakota kid. Well, he's from Minnesota, but he's a stereotypical South Dakota type player, stereotypical quarterback. He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds, extremely efficient, completing 67% of his passes, and he's only thrown one interception all year. So I think if we can get after him, he's going to be what makes this offense work. He has a couple different receivers that he spreads it out to. No one's averaging really any big numbers in terms of receiving, but he spreads it out. Like I said, he gets his completions and he gets enough to win. One thing that I will say is they're averaging 40% on third down conversions. That's not bad. That's not good either. So there's kind of where I think the difference in the game is going to lie is third down efficiency.
Gertie?
So, doing a little bit of research and scouting their defense, they got two guys, Brendan Webb and Nick Gase. Those seem to be the guys who get after the ball a little bit, get after the quarterback. Both have over 4 sacks. I think Brendan Webb has got 4.5. Those are guys that are coming after it. They both have tallied up a ton of QB hits. They're going to come after Mitch for sure. So, in terms of passing and O-line protection, you obviously want to mark those guys. I'm a little interested to see firstly, looking at their roster again statistically, I think they have a lot of depth because they got 15 guys with over 10 tackles. So if you're both in double-digit tackles, I know they've had a little bit of injuries, some guys who haven't played. They clearly have guys who can step up. Looking back to the North Dakota State game, I didn't watch a ton of it. I'd seen some highlights, but North Dakota State outgained them, out-time of possessed them, outrushed them, outpassed them, really didn't turn the ball over a ton. A lot of times you'll see games where, statistically an offense is killing you, 2 or 3 interceptions, okay, it's a tight game. Despite what, Sal, I agree with you, South Dakota ran that game because it was 21-3 by the time North Dakota State decided they wanted to score. But they kicked 3 field goals and then scored a really late touchdown. The Bison did. So it was 24-19. Take away that last touchdown, this South Dakota Coyotes team has not given up a touchdown, maybe one, to the Bison since week 1, since they played Missouri State. And they gave one, I think, to Murray State, but it's 38-7. Is that their first team giving up a touchdown? They don't seem like they're letting people in the end zone. And so that is kind of where we were last week a little bit with Southern Illinois, which is they're going to bend, and then situationally in this conference, you know how important it is to finally get a sack, to finally get a stop, to finally get a pass breakup. I think North Dakota State, if they played that game 10 times, probably does win 9, and I think South Dakota got them this time. Not saying that the South Dakota team is a bad team. I think we can score 42 points on this team. If we can protect, if we can run the ball, it could be 42-21 because I don't know if this South Dakota team can actually score. As good as our defense played, granted they're at home, it's always a little bit harder to play at home. I love the way our offense and our defense played complementary football, and based on the way that I think North Dakota State could probably play this Coyote team again, looking at the drive chart, North Dakota State could have easily scored 35 points, and they only scored 19 because they got 3 field goals. So you know that place, that Fargo Dome erupts when they score touchdowns. And they're going to be, that fan, they're pissed off if they get field goals. And you got 3 drives. I think they maybe had 1 interception. 3 drives ended in field goals. That's 28 points that those Bison fans are expecting. So add that to their final game total. That game goes completely different. I'm not taking away because you still got to score points. You still got to win the game. I think our points are out there for us. And I think that they can give us big plays. But you got to give the Coyotes credit. They're keeping people out of the end zone, and that helps win games.
That's a great point. I mean, you know they're going to be. I mean, this team, I think this team will be better prepared to play us than Southern Hill will be. It's easy to say that now, but I don't. I mean, it's a tough place to play. We'll probably hit that a little bit, or I'd love to in the next segment. But we can score points. I just hope you both touched on really key things. Can we get some sacks? And will we continue to be patient in running that ball? I mean, time of possession's huge, and I just, man, I'm harping on that, but I really hope, that's going to be a key factor. I know, Kyle, you probably got another point there on something, and, clean that up for me.
Oh, I missed it. I was distracted. I'm sorry. But, yeah. Just to feed on Kurt, the one thing that they do well is they keep teams out of the end zone, and that's what I've been saying all season is minimize the red zone damage. I mean, teams are going to get in there. Teams, you're playing talented kids across the country, and kids make plays, and they're going to get an opportunity to score, and you just have to minimize it.
I don't know if Kurt said this as black and white as I will, but I think their offense is not very good. I don't think they have a very good offense. I think our defense is going to shut them down. They are a well-coached team. They don't make many mistakes, and I know one of our defensive line jumped against Northern Iowa and made stupid mistakes like that. Again, the stupid mistakes like we did at Northern Iowa, clean those up. Their defense, if line is, I had Nick Gage written down too, Curdy. 6'4", 275. I watched some highlight reel on him. He's got some wheels. I mean, we got to shut that guy down. But Southern Illinois' defensive line was better than this, and it wasn't a problem. Now, the big difference, Dan was kind of touching on it. It's much easier. South Dakota came to the Ice Castle. I would say the score would be 100-0. Can we travel and win a game? Because we haven't yet. Can we travel and win on the road? And that's not just a question mark for this week. That's a question mark for the whole season because you're not going to get to Frisco if you can't win on the road. It's too late now unless we would have ran the table. But, yeah, we're going to have to go on the road at some point. That's my two.
You nailed it, Sal. You've got to be able to travel and win. And this, you guys remember, right? They're going to fly into Sioux Falls, stay in Sioux Falls, wake up the day of the game, drive an hour to Vermilion, play the game. And, I mean, we've been talking about this since the summer. You know what you're getting when you're going to play at Dakota School. They're going to be physical. They'll have some guys that we don't have. They'll have some long offensive linemen, long defensive linemen. It's been like that since the first trip we ever played up, in 08 or whatever. Yeah, 08, I think. But, it's time to just travel and play good football, which we're capable of.
And talking about that physicality a little bit, Coach, I probably talked about this guy enough watching the NFL, but Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions, I know he's a Michigan guy, but to me, he is the prototypical Dakota boy where he's rock solid, he knows what he's doing, and he's got a motor that is unlike anybody else. I mean, the Bosa's play that way too, and basically anybody in the NFL. But those guys are not going to turn it off. So offensive line, if you think that you're going to come in because this guy maybe is smaller against you or whatever, like he's going to fight to the whistle every time to get that quarterback. And I think that that's where those Dakota sacks come from. Like Gase and Webb, like those guys are getting after it and they are not quitting for 3, 4, 5 straight plays. They might get a playoff. Kyle, you probably know how defensive line rotations work better than me, but like when these guys are in the game, when Hutch is in the game, he's 100% until you take him off the field because it's like, yo, you got to take a breather because you're about to die. Like, I'll give you some water and get back in there. I don't know how they rotate, but
and that's what I noticed about our defensive line specifically is I noticed that we were getting, and this is a phenomenal thing that we can do is we were rotating pretty much our whole line and getting.
Fresh
I don't
legs.
think we have a 2. I don't think we have 2s on our defensive line. I think we have 1 A's and we have 1 B's. Because I looked at Kurt at one point and I was like, is Woodkey a starter?
where's
Like, I don't – every time I was, like, trying to find Woodkey, he was on the sideline. And then, you know, I was noticing the other guys more, and it was just kind of just – and those guys were getting after the quarterback. So phenomenal thing that we can do is just rotate our entire defensive line. And if we can do that against South Dakota – that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So, of our remaining schedule, we talked about there's 2 teams that are expected to be in the playoffs left. One being South Dakota, and one being South Dakota State. Personally, I'm more worried about going to South Dakota just for the home factor. And I know South Dakota State's number 1, yada yada, but we don't know if we could travel. I feel really good about beating the Jackrabbits at home, you know, way down the road, but, you know, after they go through their gauntlet. As far as games remaining, I think this is the biggest game or the biggest test left on the schedule. We win this one, I mean, the rest is on us. You know, we could stop ourselves.
Yeah, you guys have all said, I mean, winning on the road, it's the old cliche, but every coach, all the coaches we were around, everyone, Coach Haycock, Coach Wolford, I remember Coach Trussell back in the, you got to win on the road, and this is a great test. I mean, you know, they're going to be well coached. They're going to have those guys Kurt talked about that their motor never stops. But we got a pretty darn good coach at YSU. We've got good players. Kyle, you just touched on, it's been a while since we've had depth like we've had. We're playing 6 to 8 defensive linemen, right? You just pointed out Dylan Woodkey, maybe at a point in time and earlier in this staff's, you know, kind of career, so to speak, Woodkey would have never come off the field, right? They had to keep him in there. Now we've got some depth. And in the dome, it'll be hot. Their crowd, and, you know, they'll be ready to play, but so are our guys. But, Sal, you hit it. You got to win on the road. So I love Sal's point.
Road games in the Valley are tough because you're either going to a super hostile environment or you're going to an environment that is just, compared to Stanball, absolutely just dumpster fire, right?
Yep.
Like we're talking about Western Hill and Indiana State and things like that, like where it's just like, I don't know, it just doesn't get you amped up to play, but still you have to have the business mentality to like, we're here for playing inside the white lines, not where we're getting dressed.
Well, before we get to the keys of the game and score predictions, I don't know if anyone has any South Dakota stories to share. I never went to South Dakota. I was gone, and then they joined the conference the next year, so I never had the pleasure of playing against those folks. I don't know if anyone has to share before getting into the keys of the game.
I do, if you'll let me go. Go ahead, you, Kyle. You go first, Kyle.
All right, so one of my favorite all-time plays in my career was, you know, it's one thing to be playing at home and you get a big play, you hit a sack or something, and you hear all the fans erupt and like cheer and all that stuff, and you know you feel hyped up because you did that, you're the reason for that. But we're in a tight game with South Dakota senior year, and I came in on a stunt and I met the running back in the backfield, and we kind of went down awkwardly, and the kid ended up like kind of just being hurt a little bit. I think he twisted his ankle or something like that. But the whole stadium is like booing. They want like a face mask call or something. So they attend to the kid. They get him off. fans are still booing, and we're like right on the 50-yard line. So like I just like go and throw my hands up in the air, kind of to get them going, and that place erupted with boos.
Terrible.
And Dom Rich, our linebacker, comes up. He's like, "Dude, you're such a dick." And the legend of Dick Searle.
Yes.
Well, I got to go back to that year. That was 2013, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was our first trip to the Dakota Dome, 2013. Because the year before we played them.
Yeah,
back
'cause
to
that
back
first year
at
we-
home.
Yeah, you're right. 11, 12, and so we went out there, and it's an interesting place to play. But I remember on the trip out, leading up to that week, Wolf talking about the staff. I can't remember exactly, but there was talk about we got to have something going in this game. This, we were 7-1 at the time. Something to push us over the hump. And I don't remember all the details. I'm going to keep it short, but I remember the day of the game traveling out there. Wolf or someone comes up with a sledgehammer, says, "Hey, Wolf, Cobb Daddy. So one of these some bitches is getting this sledgehammer. He gonna get this sledgehammer. I'm fixing to find out who this some bitch gonna be. We're gonna get after their ass." Hey man, absolutely. So we gotta make sure we pack a damn sledgehammer. Equipment guys, we throw it in one of the trunks, and so. And I've told this story. I may have told this at Podcast After Dark, or maybe we talked about it one time. But leading up during the whole warm up, there's a lot of talk, and Wolf's like, "I don't know, Cop Daddy, I don't know, but who's gonna get this thing?" I don't know. I'm not gonna say who, and my pick would have been someone else who would lose the game. I get fired or something. But he goes, "How about my boy? 33, Kyle Searle?
You do it?
He's like, you think my boy's ready for the sledgehammer? Searle, my boy, Searle, you think he's ready?" I'm like, "Are you? Hell yeah. I mean, Searle's he's perfect for it." He's like, I'm gonna give him that sledgehammer. And I mean, I'm gonna get his ass going. He better be all over the field. I'm like, "Oh, absolutely." So we're going in before, pregame. Wolf's fired up, and he gives the American flag to someone. Can't remember who got the flag. And then
Sharbaugh.
What's that?
I think it was Sharbaugh
Sharbs?
that got the
Yeah.
flag.
You Carson?
Yeah, and he goes, typical gave a little talk about, we want to, I won't use the words, but get after him, and we're going to pound on him. We ain't going to let up. We're going to take a sledgehammer to their ass. And he's like, and the sledgehammer's going to Kyle Searle. And I mean, I'm saying this, but I hope it was impactful. It was serious. I mean, this is
I
you're not just handing
face right now.
What's that?
Can you picture Wolf's face? It's like straight as an arrow. Like,
oh yeah, you should have seen him in I mean, his face was as red as your hoodie. So I mean, he was ready to go.
Like ready to go to war.
Yep, and he's holding the sledgehammer, and it was. I mean, everyone in the line, you could have heard a pin drop. And I know for Kyle, we might be laughing a little bit about it now, but for Kyle and everyone there, it was a hell of a moment, and Wolf's holding it, kind of puts it into Kyle, and Kyle knew the kind of the depth of that moment. I think everyone there was understanding it. Kyle was the guy for it, and I just remember that. I literally can see it right now because I could see your face, Kyle, although 10 years ago, and I can see Wolf like giving you that sledgehammer because he was thinking, "The hell with this! I want this. Put the uniform on me. I'll run out this tunnel." And he would have. He'd have been like,
He almost took it back.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm gonna take the sledgehammer."
He's like, "Put my ass in a guard. I got a couple plays. You know me, Cobb Daddy. I got 4 or 5 plays. I'm gonna block somebody's ass." He was ready to go. But that was a great game. Remember, Martin Ruiz scored. What he score with like?
Maybe less than a minute.
20-some seconds, I think.
28 seconds left. Yeah.
Yep, but not to leave Kurt out of this. Kurt, in that game, you threw for 283 yards. You were 22 of 26 for 283. I think you threw to about 8 different guys. You completed passes to 8 different guys. Martin ran the ball 23 times for $136. Jody Webb had 64 yards on 5 carries. And it was such a cool last win. And we had a guy, so maybe you guys think I'm bullshitting you here, or this ain't for real, but Kyle Searle in that game, 5 solo tackles and a TFL. So if the sledgehammer, that means a lot to me because I was just a little part of that trip, and I could literally hear Wolf right now. Who am I going to give that sledgehammer to? It better be War Daddy. He better, and Kyle Searle, other than getting called what he got called by Dom, but so that's my memory of South Dakota.
I cleaned it up. Dom had more colorful language.
I'm sure I'm cleaning up Wolf's part too, so beware of that. But
a lot.
A lot. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just
Kurt.
That's my memory of South Dakota. I hope that happens again, and I don't know. You think I could take a sledgehammer up to Coach Phillips' office and give him that might be.
Dude, yeah. Give it to Woodkey.
Woodkey, yeah. No, I'm gonna give it to you, Colin. You could take it up.
Oh, I'll drive up to Vermilion and stop at the Coffee Cup.
Yeah.
I love South Dakota.
Again.
Sorry that story was long,
passes.
but it's a compliment to Kurt, the way he played. 22 of 26. I remember Shane talking about, kind of after the game. Kurt was 22 of 26. 22, 26.
With a no-look pass.
Yeah.
With a no-look pass to Christian Bryant.
Yep. Oh, yeah. See, Brian went off.
That was the weary.
Yep. Well, oh, okay.
My bad.
Christian set up the Martin Ruiz tackle, and I don't have a story that's better than that one.
Oh.
But, man, when we called Hut for that Martin Ruiz touchdown, all of our linemen fired off in a way. It was like a Carm with the Raiders now. Everybody get your in that end zone right now.
Yep.
All 5 of the linemen
Yep.
are just walking him in. They're all just like from, 4 yards, 2 yards out. And it was just, they used to say what? Score with your man or something? Score
Yep.
with your man.
Mm-hmm.
So they fire off, and, dude, Martin, all of us could have walked in.
Yeah. What was the call? Do you remember the call? What play call that was?
I'm sure it was just 33, whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah, 13 zone. It was zone left. It was nothing. We had a little bit of motion on it, I think, but it was just zone.
Did we run Denver in that game at all? Because Denver's my favorite Shane offensive play. He knows that. It's unstoppable.
No, that's the sprint draw.
Yeah, sprint draw. It's unstoppable. If you run Denver at the right play.
That to Jody. That might have been Jody on the one. I think we ran ran the old double barrel, I think, to Jody Webb, which was like split back ponies, and it was like fake zone read to the left. First, I'm probably giving away Shane's secrets here. Sorry, East Carolina. First tailback goes up the hash. Jody was probably that handoff back. I sprint a little bit to the right. I think we hit him down the sideline on like a double running back pass where like Martin clears out the first guy.
Was it like a wheel route? Was it a wheel route?
Yeah, it was a double. It was a double wheel.
Double wheel.
But
Okay.
Jody, in that moment, I really remember thinking, like, dude, Jody is probably the fastest human I've ever seen on a football.
Jody Webb could play, man. Jody Webb could play.
It was like, let's get him the ball a lot more, please.
Yeah.
Was he faster than Sir DeMarco?
Sir was taller, so that helps. But Jody's feet were like...
Yeah, Jody was electric. So, sorry, my story was long, but that was a cool memory for me because I'm going to take 25% of the credit that you got the sledgehammer, Kyle. But really,
I love it. I appreciate it.
It was a cool last moment. We won the game. We were 8-1, and yeah.
Let's flip. You ready for keys of the game and score predictions?
Yeah.
Let's
do it. Real quick, my key to the game. Again, I mentioned it. They're very well coached. Key to the game: we cannot do stupid things like penalties. And we must stop Nick Gaze on the defensive line. So the offensive line, when we need 1 yard, we need to be able to get it. Shut down their defensive line, and we'll be able to score some points. Turnovers, it sounds very cliche to say, but they are number 9 in the country in turnover margin. They wait for us to make mistakes, whether it's turnovers, penalties. Do not make mistakes. Do not turn the ball over. And real key to the game is let's I hate to say it's off the field, but let's travel well. Whatever we got to do the prep, as far as the hotel, the prepping before the game, let's travel in such a way that these guys are ready to go. If this was at the Ice Castle, I'd say it's 100-0, but since we have to travel, it makes it a little tougher. I think it will be close in the first half. The Penguins will pull away 28-10. I think the Penguins win convincingly in the second half over South Dakota. Cyril.
Yeah, my key to the game is they're going to be the same pretty much every week to week. Is keep that quarterback in the pocket, get the defensive lineman after him, force him into some throws he doesn't want. If they get into the red zone, minimize that damage to 3 points or less, and no explosive plays. Simple enough. I think the score is going to be 34-21. Penguins.
God.
Cool. Yep. I got YSU winning. I'm going to go 28-17 Penguins. I think the key to the game is just what I've been saying all along, running the football. It would be great to kind of mirror those stats. Tyshawn, 22 carries for $1 something, and get Dre in there for another 60 to 70 yards, kind of like we did back in 2013. And I like us winning, like I said, 28-17.
Gertie.
Yeah, I think the word for us offensively this week is protect. Protect the quarterback, protect the football. Talked to one of the coaches on the sideline. We got to spend some time on the sideline this week, and it's crazy talking to a guy, the likes of Coach Troy, who is similar to Shane in that they still have those plays in their brain of probably this year and last year and the season before, and they just can remember it, and just asking them, how it was going. And I'm not going to give too much away, but when we talk about traveling to South Dakota, you want to travel with, everything you're talking about, playing hard, playing fast, but like if you could just eliminate the mistakes, protect the football, protect your quarterback, those mistakes can cost you the game. It was an old Shane thing, and 4 or 5 plays, you never know which ones they're going to be. Could be in the first quarter, could be in the fourth quarter. So just protect the football, protect. I think we are talented enough offensively to score a lot of points. I think it's going to be 42-21. They are due to give up a lot of points, and I think we need to take advantage of it. So protect the football, take our spots, be patient with the run game, like Coach Kopp's saying, but protect the football, protect the quarterback. Nothing bad happens. But, we got the talent to score plenty of points.
24-21?
42-21.
Holy cow.
3 scores.
Just a quick shout out. I see Richard Wolf says 38-30 YSU, just to share his picks. Before we go to picks around the Valley for this week and elsewhere, I'm going to turn it over to Searle.
Hey, boys, we finally made it. We got a little bit of a sponsor ad here. So our first sponsor coming to you from Leiden Oil Company. Leading Penguin supporter in the Valley for over 100 years, and supplying you with all your fuel and lubricant needs. And famous line from Paul Leiden himself is "Dedication fuels success." So let's get into these picks.
Love you, Paul.
Saturday, October 14th, and let's pick in order going Kurt, Searle, and Dan. Of course, as always, say who you think is going to win the game and the spread. Big one, North Dakota State is at North Dakota, 2 p.m. North Dakota State is a -7.5 favorite. I am picking North Dakota to win in the money line. North Dakota to win outright.
North Dakota State Bison to win and cover.
Sure.
I'm going to have North Dakota State showing little brother what's up, win and cover.
Well, first, thanks to the Leiden family, Paul Sr. and Jr. and Laura. I mean, that unbelievable family, the Leiden family, been awesome to YSU for a long time. So, love those guys. So, but I like
Jen. Don't forget Jen.
Absolutely as well. So, all of them, the Leiden family, like I said, the whole group, they're the best. So, I'm gonna take the Bison to go out there to win and cover.
Now, I just want to make sure. So if North Dakota wins this game, will you guys agree that North Dakota State is the worst team in the Dakotas?
No.
No, they're not going to be the worst team in the Dakotas.
No, because we're going to beat South Dakota by 3 scores.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that we're not better than the Dakotas. I'm just saying of the
Dakota
4
boys,
teams,
huh?
They lost to South Dakota, North Dakota. I mean, obviously South Dakota State's better, but anyway.
Hey, put Rich down for put Rich down for a guest pick. He's got North Dakota upset on the Bison.
Thank you. Someone else. Thank you.
Somebody
Someone
else
else
thinks the dynasty's
understands the
falling.
dynasty's dying. As we have Youngstown State at South Dakota, we talked in depth, 2 p.m. There's almost a pick 'em. They had Youngstown State as a favorite, but it's less than a point. It's like a 0.3 and a bunch of numbers, so it's almost a pick 'em. We all picked Youngstown State, which is also a win and a cover. Indiana State is at Illinois State, 3 p.m. Illinois State is a -15 favorite. At home, I have them both winning and covering.
I have them winning and covering.
I think Indiana State blew their load against you and I last week. Illinois State to win and cover.
Yo, how do I follow that? How do I? I'm
You
just.
can't.
I got the Redbirds winning and covering. Oh,
Yeah,
I
no
love it.
doubt. Cheryl, Indiana State, I think Northern Iowa was just on a high from beating us, and it's hard to travel in the Valley, so yeah, no way. The Salukis of Southern Illinois try to bounce back as they travel to our newest member, Murray State, 3 p.m. The Salukis are a -20.5. I have them winning and covering. I think they're going to be pissed off and win in a big way.
Yep, Southern Ill to win and cover.
No, sir. Pump the brakes right there. Southern Ill on the road. They're licking their wounds. They're feeling sorry for themselves.
Not that good.
Southern Ill will win a close one. Murray State covers.
I'm with the sledgehammer. The Salukis win, but don't cover.
Sledgehammer.
It's my boy.
The Northern Iowa UNI is at South Dakota State, 3 p.m., which will also be a big game to keep your eye on. The Jackrabbits are -20.5. I have the Jackrabbits winning and covering, mostly because I don't think Northern Iowa's that good, and I'm still ticked off we lost to them.
South Dakota State will win, but should be pretty close. So they will not cover.
Yeah, South Dakota State's going to win. I don't think they'll cover either.
I got South
Northern Iowa just finds a way to just annoy you with points.
You're a hangnail.
Yeah, it's a good point. I just because I'm like Sal, I'm still salty over that loss. I want South Dakota State to win and cover, so I'm picking them to win and cover.
It's just, being the road team in the Valley is tough. I think it's very underrated. How spread out it is, and they're playing outdoors. Anyway, Missouri State at Western Ill, 4 p.m. Missouri State is a -16. I have them winning the game, but I think Western Ill, not that they keep it close, but I don't think they lose by 16 plus points. I'm doing with Western Ill on the spread.
Is this the poop bowl of the week?
Yes.
Yeah.
Jiminy Christmas. I don't know. Missouri State to win but not cover. Come on, Leathernecks.
Give me the what are they, the Bears? Give me the
Big old Grizzlies.
Give me the Bears to win and cover. I hate Western Ill. Terrible place to go play a game.
Yeah, is that game at the old Boardman Stadium here in Youngstown, or because that's about?
Dude, that would be an
That's a
improvement.
Yeah, no, I'm talking old Boardman where I played. Like the new Boardman's.
Still an improvement.
Yeah, that's
I don't
true. I mean, it's
Sneaky
such a
underrated wide.
yeah, it's just such a bad place to play a Western, man. I'm gonna say Missouri State wins but doesn't cover.
Yeah, to your point, whoever called it the poop bowl, I read an article earlier today that said that there's 8 teams in the conversation in the Missouri Valley for the playoffs, and 6 of them play each other, which is interesting. That game, the Missouri State at Western Illinois, is the one game they were talking about that were 2 teams not in the conversation playing. I want to take, like I always do, one FCS game that's interesting enough. It's actually on the late night slot, ESPN2 national TV. Going to the Big Sky, number 10 in the country, Montana, according to the coaches poll, is at number 3, Idaho, which will be a very interesting game. on if Montana is for real or not for real. Idaho is a minus 11-point favorite. I think Idaho is going to win and cover. I think Montana personally is a fraud, and I don't think they'll even make the playoffs, or they shouldn't make the playoffs. I have Idaho just blowing them out, and this is a game you can go to bed early on.
Yeah, I'll take Idaho too with winning and covering by a couple scores.
Yeah, I'm going to take Idaho as well. Not an impressive resume so far for the Grizz. They won 17-10 to Ferris State, which I'm pretty sure is a D2 squad. It's a D2 squad, like Cal Poly.
Good one, though.
Division 2 squad. Ferris State's legit though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You want to go, you roll a Division 2 squad to the Penguins. I don't care how good they are, and say we win 17-10 and try and tell our fans they're good. I don't care. Division 2 for a reason.
I love
Pittsburgh
it.
State's some dogs though.
Oh yeah, Coach Wright and the boys.
They got them gorillas looking
The
nice.
Gorillas. Yeah, heck, they were undefeated last year, right? I would say I'm gonna go. The Grizz are give me the points in the Grizz.
Wow. All right.
Not the Grizz aren't.
Bold
I'm not
move.
saying the Grizz are gonna win, but I'll take those points.
Sure.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out.
I need to catch up with Kurt. I mean, Kurt's like 42 points ahead of us. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sal,
there's
quit
a lot.
acting like you know everything, Sal. You haven't won any week.
I never said I knew anything.
Yo.
I think Montana's a fraud.
There's a reason I haven't gambled real money on the season yet. I'm still waiting. Once I will start winning on this show, I'll start laying down the dollars again. But
I stopped laying down dollars when Nick Chubb broke his knee 2 yards from the goal line. I'm done.
There goes my Chubb.
Well, let's follow up from last week. We had a strong request, and I know, Cop, you have a million stories, but we'll probably just do a story, an episode until you at least told the legit ones you want to get out there. Crazy YSU stories from Dan Cop by popular demand. Anything to share?
Is this for real? Like I'm really doing this?
You're really doing it. You can redact names if you need to.
Oh yeah,
just
no
take
no
names.
no names, and I'm not going to say which coach it was under because that would probably give too much away. But it's hard. I mean, I thought maybe it should go by a category. Like, is it the craziest travel story, the craziest recruiting story?
Perfect. Give us a category for the night.
Yeah, we're on the road this week, so let's do a crazy travel story.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, I was kind of thinking of more of a legal story that had a little funny twist to it. Unless you want me to go road story.
No, whatever you have prepared works.
I didn't really have anything prepared. It's hard. I'm just trying to do this on the fly. But
Do the legal stuff. This is good.
yeah, so let's just say, you know, I'm in my position and I get a call on a Saturday night that a young man was involved in something after a game. Nothing, you know, wasn't anything, nothing to do with the female, nothing to do with anything illegal, but a fight breaks out at this place in Youngstown. He comes out of the play. He wasn't in the fight, but, you know, it's a melee. There's stuff going everywhere, and he gets grabbed by the security force and gets kind of put into saying he was involved in this altercation, which he wasn't. So needless to say, they charge him with something. On Monday, he has to make a court appearance. Well, I have some legal expertise in my family, thankfully. You know, I got a in-house lawyer, I like to say. So I'm reaching out to him. At this time, he's living in, you know, where all the fancy people live in Tampa, down there by Sal, even though he's north of Kennedy. But he's advising me to, hey, this doesn't seem too big. What would you have him go in and plead not guilty? I'm like, well, is anyone going to represent him? No, they'll plead not guilty, and, you know, they'll set a date. And, hey, if he wants to plead or say he has no attorney, they'll appoint one. So I take him down to the courthouse, and I'm trying to, you know, coach him up a little bit. Here's what you're going to say. He said, okay. So judge calls him up. He goes up, and the judge is kind of looking like he doesn't have a lawyer. And he's looking back at me. I'm just in the court. I'm just kind of standing there, and we're sitting there, and how do you want to plead? And I had informed him, dude, not guilty. So he's looking at me, and the judge is going, why are you looking at him? I'm thinking, oh, no, this ain't good. And he's looking at me, and I'm kind of mouthing, not guilty. So, not guilty. Okay, well, where's your representation? He looks at me, and I'm like, you don't have a lawyer, you don't have a lawyer. And she goes, why are you, who is that? What, why are you looking at him? Oh, that's Coach Kopp. I'm like, oh. Now everyone like in the courts, I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, I don't have a lawyer. Well, we'll appoint you one. Hold on. Well, the bailiff goes up to the judge. Next thing you know, you in the chambers. I'm like,
Who, you?
yeah. I'm like, get my chambers now. I'm like, oh my. Well,
Oh, shit.
I'm thinking, is this what I signed up for? Next thing you know, I'm in the judge's chamber. The judge just reads me the riot act. If I ever see another YSU player in my court, I'm coming after you. And da 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 da. And I'm like, what the hell did I? Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. Do you understand me? Yes, Your Honor. Just teeing off on me. I'm like, what the hell am I? I mean, I'm gonna get thrown in the clink. I haven't done nothing. I just told please not. So I walk out of the chambers. The courtroom is like kind of full, so to speak, and they're all laughing at me because the door in the chambers was like, you could hear every word the judge said. I mean, I'm like, this is just, what am I doing? Walk out of there. The player's like, man, Coach, they tore you a new one. I'm like, yeah, I brought you down here. I'm not supposed to be involved with this at all. I'm calling my brother. I get back to the football office. They're like, how'd it go? I said, how'd it go? I said, went great for him. I just got ripped by a judge. Like, I'm going to be, there's probably a bench warrant out for my arrest, and like, I'm sitting in my office like, what the hell is going on here? So, too long of a story, but that was probably a early crazy story. So,
Well, what happened? Was he not guilty?
oh yeah, absolutely. They didn't even charge. Pled not guilty. They, I don't know, worked something out, and obviously he had to do some, we did some community outreach, but he really wasn't, truth be told, wasn't involved in the altercation, just came out of the bar at the very wrong time. And they were just security group was snatching anyone. And so
So he
these
was
were
probably pissed off that you were almost acting like an attorney to him, because obviously you were giving him legal advice clearly to the courtroom.
Oh yeah, I was worried they were going to throw me like, like impersonating a lawyer. All I did was do exactly what a good lawyer told them to do, and they're looking at me, and I got in more trouble than he did. I think.
Right.
I mean, he just, I'm getting ripped by a judge. So probably not the best story, but was an early one that I thought I'd share. Pretty clean for this
That was
early.
pretty good.
All right.
That was pretty good.
That was
Well,
perfect.
let's start wrapping it up. Cyril, over to you. YouTube Live. Any comments, shout outs, or questions before we wrap
Yeah,
it up?
so Gibbs is in the chat, loving the show. Y-Town back in the chat. They say the Grizz definitely struggled with Ferris State, and Ferris State should have won that game.
Yeah.
Rich Wolf with his picks. He's got Illinois State, Southern Ill, and South Dakota State winning. So we got a guest picker in. Get him ranked. He'll probably beat us all. So good luck to
He'll beat
Richard
me.
Wolf.
Tell Richard
this
I
week
said,
on
what's
the-
up?
He heard you.
Over to Curdy, Instagram. Any shout outs or questions from the IG page?
We're going to table the Instagram stuff because we have to give a massive shout out to Tim Gallo and Alvy Armstrong in the equipment room taking care of us this weekend. So Alvy and Tim, they came at us hardcore this weekend, and we're like, hey, we got a bone to pick with you. And we're like, what? Like, we're here, we're saying hi, what do you want from us? You haven't had us on your show. And I had to explain to them how an offensive coordinator works, because you don't show your best plays early in the season. You hold your best plays for when you really need it, when things really matter. So, Tim and Alvy, if you're listening, we will get you on the show when the moment is right and when we need you the most. We love you. Thank you for everything this weekend.
Do we want them together or separate?
I mean, they got to be together.
Absolutely 200% together.
They gotta be together.
Listen, if you think
they fight like a
It's the
married
best
couple.
comedy duel you'll ever have.
if you think I've got stories, if you think it needs to be Cop Daddy After Dark, Tim and Alvy and Tim, however you want to say it, those two dudes, bro. If we have them on now, let me ask you something. Between both Kyle and Kurt, that official issue gear you're sporting right there, you can't say.
100%.
Can't say. Well, okay.
We'll have to talk about Cop Daddy after dark.
I got a little. Okay. Yeah. Tim.
I don't care.
Yeah, those two are
I
the
earned
best,
it.
but man, do they got some stories. Woo.
This is my
We'll have a
NIL back pay.
Yeah.
Let's
What I
wrap
have
it
to
up.
say though about
Go ahead.
this game on Saturday was, like, we went from Leiden's Loge, where like Jeff Crystal's catering everything, and Jeff Crystal's food is phenomenal. The sliders and the buns. And then you're in the equipment room and you got like this feast of like snacks and appetizers, and you're like, I don't know which one's better, because like both of these are delicious. Like, they're so good, man. We smashed at both of them too.
Oh, those two guys are the best, but man, that's gonna have to be a like supervised show with those two on, man. Woo. Wow.
That'll be our first
We'll
2-hour
edit
show.
that
That'll be
one.
our first 2-hour show.
Amen.
Yeah, buckle up.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to edit that one. Closer to Mark. Anything else before I sign off?
Kyle Kronovich coming into the chat. He definitely confirmed Tim and Alvy need to be together. So shout out Kyle.
Let's go, Kyle.
Kyle's the
Big
man.
fan of the show.
Let's go.
Yo, Kyle.
All right, that'll be a wrap. Again, the Youngstown State Penguins are at South Dakota, 2 p.m. on ESPN Plus. If you're looking national, please follow us on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. We will be on YouTube Live Tuesdays, 8 p.m. going live. Hit the chat box. As always, we are on podcasts, anywhere podcasts are found. Please follow us, comment, give us a 5-star review, share with a friend, get the word out there as much as possible. But again, I am your host, Sal Guardo. That is Kyle Searle. That is Kurt Hess. That is Dan Cobb. And thank you for listening to the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. And once again, Youngstown State is at South Dakota, 2 p.m. this Saturday, October 14th. Thanks for listening, and tune in next time. And as always, go Penguins.
No music.